It's March 12th, day 13 of the U.S. war in Iran, Operation Epic Fury. U.S. and the Gulf states and Israel teamed up, striking Iran at this point as Iran doubles down on choking off the Straits of Hormuz, reportedly even using undersea drones, which are harder to detect than the Shahed drones, which are also striking assets in the Gulf, hitting oil tankers, trying to cause chaos. But then we've got this massive explosion that lit up Qom, the clerical heart of the Islamic regime in Iran. The plume is so big, it's basically as close as you can get to a nuclear explosion, but clearly it's a non-nuclear mushroom cloud. We're talking potentially GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator bomb. That's a 30,000-pound bunker buster bomb that punches through 200 feet of concrete or granite like it's paper. Meanwhile, the regime is going into full defiance mode, just tripling down at this point on their rhetoric. IRGC spokesperson has been roaring that the enemy's savage attacks on the holy cities, including Qom, will only strengthen their resolve. Every bomb dropped will be answered with tenfold force from the unbreakable axes of resistance, is what they said. It said that leadership sites were struck, and now it's not confirmed that that was a GBU-57 that hit in Qom, but it sure looks that way. But I think it's interesting how the regime is like, you're targeting our holy cities. And it's like, well, actually, we're targeting your guys' thrones of power, because in these holy cities, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has their palaces with their golden crappers. Meanwhile, they're killing 35,000 of their own people. So hopefully one day soon, this will be an actual holy city for the free people of Iran, where they can go and celebrate their religion in freedom and not be under the thumb of these Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps dictators. But the IRGC went on to vow that they will now unleash their most violent and continuous operations, and the state media commenters are saying the blood of our martyrs in Qom fuels the fire of resistance that will consume the invaders. So basically tripling down on their hardline stances. The Trump administration is basically saying that the end of the line is near for the Islamic regime in Iran, and the fight, the main military fight, is basically over, and that the campaign might move into the next phase. What could the next phase include? Well, it definitely will include persistent ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Who knows? Even specific high-value strikes with drones, with special forces. We don't know yet what that next phase could entail, but there's also now rumors that Iran is trying to strike California with drone-carrying ships that could get close to the coast and then unleash their drones on civilian targets, energy infrastructure. So we'll be breaking all that down throughout this video, but let's pop to X for what's going on right now. So check this out, guys. This is the strike that everyone is talking about. This is in Qom. Let's have a look at this beast. Here we go. Wow. Yeah, one singular massive strike mushroom cloud. That's what makes me think it's a GBU-57. I mean, that is a massive explosion. Some people have said a Moab, potentially mother of all bombs, but that needs to be pushed out of the back of a C-130 or a C-17. And at this point, I don't think it's a smart idea to fly these cargo planes right over, the middle of the country and drop a weapon, because there could be those surface-to-air missiles, a few stragglers that click on and target them. So it does have the slight signature of the GBU-57 MOP 30,000-pound ordnance penetrator. This was in Qom, potentially targeting high-value target bunkers, so where some of the leadership of the IRGC has their deep underground bunkers. Also, some potential nuclear sites there as well, with centrifuges being rumored to be in Qom. So right now, there's no confirmed usage of the GBU-57, but yeah, this was a big bomb. Some people have said potential ammo depots. Maybe. I mean, there's always the potential for that. But that's one big singular explosion, and I don't see a lot of secondaries, which makes me think it's one weapon. And then check this out. This is a recording of an Israeli pilot talking to Mobile 97. Let's have a listen.
Mobile 97.
Go for 97.
It is a great honor for us to fight with you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. Likewise, gentlemen. Please be safe out there. Strike hard. See ya.
So Mobile 97, that is a signature call sign for the KC-135 Stratotanker, and this just shows the massive amount of cooperation between the world's two best air forces, the Israeli Air Force and the American Air Force, likely with this KC-135 refueling an Israeli F-35I, F-16I, or F-35I, refueling them and then getting them back into the fight. And then check this out. This is the new Ayatollah releasing a message from a bunker, so he didn't actually show himself. But yeah, supposedly, he's in charge, right? Yeah, he's rumored to be injured. And he basically pushed forward with his father's hardline stance, saying that he would open new fronts of attacks against America and Israel and any Gulf partner that's supporting the US or Israel. So, shocker, Majabta, the son of Ali Khamenei, continued to be a hardliner. Weird. Nobody saw that coming, but this is classic. He's like, Dad was really tough, but I'm going to be tougher. I'm going to show Dad that I'm important. And then check this out. This is a helicopter in Dubai striking a Shahed drone, side door gunner shooting out the side, looked to be a Black Hawk helicopter. And then this is an image of a ship being struck near the Straits of Hormuz. This was yesterday, reportedly loaded with Iraqi oil. So the Persian Gulf is getting lit up, and potentially from undersea drones. That one looked like an explosion from the top, so potentially a Shahed style drone on that one. And then check this out, US CENTCOM just released this more strike footage. They're releasing footage of striking massive amounts of Iranian hardware, specifically ballistic missiles. And some of you guys have asked, well, why does some of the strikes look small, like specifically on the Navy or like some of the strikes here? Well, a lot of it doesn't need to be massive because you can get a functional kill, an F kill, which there are different types of kills. There's F kill, which is a functional kill, M kill, which is a mobility kill. That means it just can't move. And then a K kill, which means totally destroyed. You don't necessarily need to totally destroy these. You can just get an F kill, which is a functional kill, which means that these things are not going to function anymore. So 3 different types of kills that we're seeing take place. And then CENTCOM released this, striking more of the Iranian Air Force, just torching the Air Force with that C-130 that they apparently had. They've got some relatively decent sized transport aircraft. So now it's just completely taking down any ability they have to resupply any of their forces. There is a Russian-made aircraft, the telltale signs of that Russian-style cargo plane, potentially even an ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance plane. All these aircraft are just going bye-bye. So we've seen the US strike F-14s, F-4s, F-5s, and now the targets are moving to the cargo force of Iran. They're not going to be able to move any types of supplies around the region anymore. And I thought this was cool. Planet Labs has said that they will be extending a delay on releasing imagery of the Middle East for 14 days now. It was 4 days, now it's 14 days, and their goal is to not show US positions to any of the enemy, to any of the Iranian forces that are going to be trying to use that to target US forces. And now we're also seeing that Iran has launched a new wave of drone and missile attacks on Gulf countries. Just today, they're doubling down on striking Gulf countries. Bahrain told residents to remain indoors. Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Defense said that Iran was trying to attack energy infrastructure and desalination plants. So Iran is doubling down at targeting their Gulf nations, which is just wild. I mean, it shows behind the curtain that ultimately they don't care about any of their neighbors. But over the last 12 hours, we've seen tankers hit in the Straits of Hormuz. Now reports are coming in saying a US and Greek-owned ships are ablaze from what looks like undersea drone strikes. So it looks like the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps resistance in the Straits of Hormuz was a little stronger than originally thought. It's said that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has the Azdar UUV, underwater unmanned vehicle that can target ships going through the Straits of Hormuz. In response, US and Israel strikes have hammered regime targets across multiple provinces, but specifically in Guam. Almost like Guam was like the big middle finger the US was giving to the IRGC, saying, hey, you're going to target ships in the Straits of Hormuz, well, we're going to target your biggest military structures in Guam and even potentially striking some of your nuclear facilities there. Smoke plumes, fire columns, reports on strikes of military sites in Guam are leading the headlines, possibly defense industrial zones, and in my opinion, more likely command bunkers, deep command bunkers where the IRGC is now kind of retreating into what they think are hardened, unreachable sites. But likely, just from my perspective, it looks like probably command bunkers, command and control bunkers from the IRGC being targeted by those 30,000-pound weapons, if in fact that's what was dropped. That's what it looks like to me. Could be a weapon that we don't even know about yet. But Iranian rhetoric is screaming about sacred red lines being crossed. But Iran's playing asymmetric warfare to the max at this point. Undersea drones like the Ozdar, that's a torpedo-shaped, stealthy underwater drone. At least Iran claims it is. 18 to 25 knots. It's got likely up to 3 or 4 days of endurance. And it can sneak around to potentially explode once it hits one of the tankers. They're also launching intense missile and drone barrages, although down about 90% from the initial days of the conflict. An additional shock value is that Iran is releasing credible threats about undersea drones and above the sea drones off the coast of California, and the FBI is giving a warning about possible Shahed 136s, which are their militarized drones off the coast of California from potential smuggling ships. These cargo ships that could have a couple connexes on them that are full of these Shahed 136s, and then they get activated and go in and strike targets off the coast of California. So Iran is busting out big propaganda. Whether or not they have the ability to do that, that remains to be seen. But I like the fact that the FBI is on top of this, trying to get ahead of the threat. And again, a terrorist regime is going to think about ways to do this. Likely they had plans to do it. And so now it's just, can the logistics match up with the plans? Can they actually get people to launch these things, to target them in while they're getting hammered across the other side of the world at Guam with their military bunkers going up in flames? Do they still have the ability? Do they still have the command and control to execute some sort of terrorist operation off the coast of California? But if it was GBU-57 MOPS that were dropped in Guam, that's essentially like bringing the world's largest sledgehammer to a safe. And the star to do that is the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, likely flying just from the US, Whiteman Air Force Base, potentially even flying from Diego Garcia, ghosting through whatever's left of Iranian air defenses, then releasing GPS-guided GBU-57s that punch deep and detonate with precision that makes JDAMs look like you're throwing pebbles. The tactics are classic. Low observable ingress with the B-2, stand-in release where you release that GBU-57 from really close to the target, and then maximum effects on hardened targets with minimum risks to the crews. And then you combine that with sustained strikes and Basij, IRGC payment systems, naval remnants, whatever there's left of the actual Iranian Navy, and you see American resolve and tech dominance on full display. It looks to me like the US at this point, the US military is operating at a level that no one else can touch, striking these military targets, and basically Iran is just spewing propaganda because at the end of the day, that's really all they have left. And potentially the US military just served up the IRGC in Guam a 30,000-pound wake-up call that definitely got their attention. And that's probably why we're seeing the propaganda go to level 11 from the regime itself. So let's move to the 4D chess strategic analysis section. And you guys know I love to just say 4D chess, makes me feel really cool. But this is classic coercive air power. Degrade the regime's ability to threaten shipping at the utmost possible. Hit their functional centers of leadership like deep bunkers in Guam and pressure their leadership during their succession chaos. I mean, they're already in chaos. The new Ayatollah can't even show his face. We don't even know his real status. The US military seems completely focused on military and industrial targets, hopefully avoiding some sort of full ground invasion, maybe limited special forces strikes, but it looks to me like the US is forcing Iran into a bad position. Keep fighting and you lose more. Keep blowing up ships in the Straits of Hormuz and you lose more. Even though we've seen oil prices trickle back up towards $100 a barrel, the US is now taking the gloves off to all of the different leadership infrastructure in Iran. So my opinion, even though the Trump administration hinted that they would start targeting energy infrastructure, I think they'll likely just start targeting the leadership even more, just doubling down on targeting anyone who's responsible for giving that okay to targeting ships in the Straits of Hormuz prior to the energy infrastructure being struck. Again, just my opinion, but this is psychological warfare on top of the physical strikes, showing the leadership that even their deepest bunkers in Guam aren't off limits for the smart, decisive strikes that the US just executed. So let's talk about a realistic nightmare escalation scenario of what happens if Iran could get a handful of Shahed 136 kamikaze drones onto container ships that pose threats to either commercial traffic near the coast of California or even targeting civilian infrastructure, or probably more likely naval bases in San Diego or even ports in Los Angeles. They would likely also try to ramp up undersea drone attacks at these different spots as well. But the US has massive amounts of naval presence near San Diego and in California that could be striking down any credible threat with F-18s. Specifically, F-18s would probably be the star of the show at this point, and you can load those out with APKWS anti-drone rockets to strike down any drones trying to come in towards the coast of California. And who knows, this could be a total rebrand for Gavin Newsom. Make him look more manly, have him on a beach, riding a horse, holding a high-powered microwave anti-drone weapon. Now, that's a Time magazine cover if I've ever seen one. So there you go, guys. Day 13, Iran is doubling down on trying to shut down the Straits of Hormuz with different tanker hits. Now being said that a US and a Greek tanker have been hit by underwater Iranian drones. So now it's determining where are those launching from and how do you strike those down. Possible MOP strikes, the biggest middle finger yet, on Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps leadership, the new leadership of the actual Ayatollah stepping in. While they're in that leadership chaos, striking the leadership even hard, it's like the administration at this point has taken the gloves off and telling Iran that, hey, this is done, this is finished. But meanwhile, the regime is screaming defiance until the very end. But it looks to me like their capabilities are being bled out every single day. We're seeing American air power, precision, and resolve, like potentially dropping the GBU-57 or even just dropping multiple 2,000-pound bombs across the different targets in Iran. What do you think happens next in the next few weeks? Does Iran fold? Do they double down with something more desperate like what they've threatened to do off the coast of California? Let me know in the comments below. Go ahead and follow me on X, follow me on Instagram. I'm posting there pretty much every day. And then click the link in the description. Join the lives. I do priority responses to members in the lives. Lots of other perks to being a member. So click that link, become a channel member, and then watch this next video that pops up right here. That's pretty much the best compliment you can give me. I'll see you on this next video. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.